And welcome back to the Southeastern Sports Network podcast. It is my privilege to welcome back a legend in Southeastern football. And this is a guy that won a lot of football games when he was at Southeastern, and the winningest quarterback in the history of the program, John Wells. Glad to have you back, John. I know you were here back under Coach Brewer and Coach Lofton, and you, 78, 79, 80, you were the starting quarterback at Southeastern. Welcome. Glad to have you with us.
Well, I'm thankful to be on the show with you guys. I respect what you've done. Y'all have put a lot into in Southeastern and, try to get the word out. So I really appreciate it.
And we appreciate you, and this is our privilege to have you on with us. And a lot of folks that, I know you obviously stay in touch with a lot of former players, and you guys into the former players and all that, but there's a lot of fans out there, maybe wondering what's going on with John Wells now. Tell us where you are and what's been happening in the last few years.
Well, I've been in Texas since '99 and with my job, and I moved out to Fayetteville, which is a rural area between Houston and Austin. So I've got a 22-acre farm, and I retired effective August 1st of this year. So just been kind of hanging out and trying to get used to retirement. It's the third time that I've retired, and I don't think I'm used to it yet. So it's only been a couple of months, but I'm going to try to give it a little bit of time here. I have
guys having some technical difficulties. John, you were talking about being in Texas, being retired for the third time, and if you could pick back up there, if you would.
Okay, so and I'm working part-time at the school. I was at Fayetteville ISD for 4 years. I did all kind of stuff, security and maintenance and substituting and things like that. And I'm part-time now, just a couple hours a day, depending on what's going on. But that's what I'm doing, and I've got like I said, I have a farm here, so I'm into growing crops. I have aeroponics, and inside I have an indoor garden, and I have an outdoor garden, so they keep me pretty busy.
All right, let's talk about your days at Southeastern. Obviously, you're from Pensacola, Florida, if I remember correctly, and just talk about how you got here, how you were recruited. I know you started your career here under Coach Brewer. Just talk about how that process went and what led you to Southeastern.
Okay, well, I was being contacted by a few schools, not many, but I was going to Auburn University. I went to all of their home games my senior year, and they kept in touch with me, and they were telling me I really wanted to go there. I wanted to play in the SEC, even though I probably wasn't talented enough to do that, but. Like I said, they had 30 scholarships that year, and I was 35, and then I moved to 33, and I moved to 32, and it kept going like that. And in the meantime, like I said, the Citadel and Southern Miss, a few other schools, and also I was playing baseball in the spring, and I knew that I had a place to go, maybe not a full ride, but I could have played baseball at about 15 or 20 different places. But I wanted to play football, and that was it. So Coach McGee came in, and I went to the spring game that year. And when all the dust settled, I was 3 or 4 scholarships away at Auburn. They wanted me to walk on. So I wanted to play football, and my other options were going to the military or get a job or something like that. But Coach McGee came in, and they wanted me to sign, and I did. I ended up signing. I went to the spring game, and I liked what I saw and things of that nature. And I think the main thing with me was I thought I could play there. And so that's one of the reasons that I didn't want to sit the bench. I've never sat the bench in my life, and I just didn't think I was one of the guys that could probably handle something like that. So I wanted somewhere where I could play, and I've never really had to sit the bench or whatever, but I wanted to play. Otherwise, it wasn't worth it to me. So I thought by watching spring game that that I'd have a chance to play, and maybe not in the first year, but at some point in time, I felt like I could play with the team, and that's one of the reasons I made the decision to go to Southeastern. Plus, it was really close to Pensacola. It's a 3 hour and 15 drive, and I didn't want to be a long ways away from home and things of that nature, so it worked out really good for me.
Robbie, Robbie, you got anything?
Yeah, I do. And John and I are keep in touch. Before I came here, he goes 21-10, and I come over here and just want to keep going with what he has established here in 3 years, and had so much respect for him, and it ain't easy to win 21 games in 3 years. It's just that's you have to be a leader, and I knew he was, and I had a lot of respect for him. And when I came over here, I just I wanted to keep that going because John was such a good player over here. And I didn't want to screw that up, I guess is what I'm saying. I didn't want somebody to say, well, hell, if we'd had John one more year, I wanted to do my own thing. But knowing that Southeastern had a tradition of winning football games, and John was right there leading that. So, I had a whole lot of respect for him when I came here.
Of course, I was a high school quarterback in the area, a little bit after that. I was, matter of fact, those who may not know, John was actually a grad or a student coach my freshman year, baseball at Independence High School. But, growing up in the area, both of you guys were quarterbacks that I looked up to in the area, being the Southeastern quarterbacks. So I can attest that both of you were winners, no doubt about it, and household names in this area, and people, I think all quarterbacks in the Hammond area and Tangipahoa Parish wanted to emulate. So I just want to get that out there. But
Mark, what I would like to ask John, I didn't get to play for Billy. What was the difference in playing for the two guys? I love playing for Oscar, but I never got a chance to play for Billy, but you got to play for both of them. What was the difference?
Well, I think the biggest difference, both guys are well renowned and they're leaders, and they could give the locker room speeches and this and that. I think the biggest difference for me was Coach Brewer, although he knew offense, he was not on the offensive side of the ball as much. He stayed with the defense, and most of the days he was down by the defense. So, and then when Coaching came in, we went from running the veer, handoff, running team for the 3 years prior to, and then my senior year, Coach Lofton came in and put in a passing attack and gave us we did throw a little bit more, although they didn't have a quarterback that could throw very good, but we had some guys that could catch. We had some guys that could catch it. I can tell you that.
You guys had some athletes back then for sure.
Well, no, if you want to talk about athletes, we did have some, but I'm here to tell you my gift for going to Southeastern and playing 4 years of football was to see the locker room. And what I mean by that is we had guys that to this day had a group of guys that I was around, and I was in management for 38 years. I had a lot of different guys that worked for me. But we had guys that had such big hearts that it was unbelievable to watch them play. If you had saw us play Boise State first game of the 1980 season, which I consider to be the greatest win in SLU history, and that's not because I was the quarterback, but it's because of who they were, and we went up there, Louisiana boys and Panhandle Florida boys going to Boise, Idaho and playing was just phenomenal. But they weren't in the game. And I don't care what the score was, we dominated that game on every side of the ball that there was. So, but it was interesting. And again, my takeaway from Southeastern is the coaches that are around, players like Robbie. There were some good ones. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, you got the Mark Millett's and the Mark Stubbs and the Ronnie Doyles, and I could go on and on and on with people that they refuse to be beaten and they refuse to lose. And I used to tell people all the time, they said, "You play quarterback at Southeastern." I said, "Well, I took the snaps, but I gave it to somebody as fast as I could, just so that we would be successful."
Well, those guys, I can't speak for them, but I would have to say they would probably say that you can't win without a leader. I know Robbie could tell you he was a quarterback, and you have to have somebody that somebody wants to follow. And you were that guy.
Well, Mark, I'm just going to tell you with what John said. When I got there, and I was blessed to be able to go to Southeastern. Southeastern changed my life, but those guys, and John said, just refused to lose, and that was the mindset with everybody over there. And I walked into a honeypot. I've got guys that are used to winning, and he said it, man. We're going to do whatever we got to do not to lose this ball game. And I've always said this: everybody wants to win, but if you get enough guys that hate losing more than they like winning, that's what you need. Because I hated to lose. I know John did, and most of our guys over there during that era, we just hated to lose. I mean, I didn't want to go walk on campus after a loss, and that's just a Southeastern mindset back then.
And that's a culture that just kind of gets fostered. Obviously you got to have dudes, and you got to have leadership at the top, and you got to have. You guys both know. I have to tell you guys this. It's also got to be player led. I mean, I don't know of a good football team that's ever not been player led. In the locker room, right. Coaches don't have to.
I totally agree.
Do it for you. But yeah, you brought up that Boise game. I was going to go there since you did. Let's dig about that back a little bit more on that. But you had a couple years. You were still D2. That was the first year Southeastern was actually a Division I school. It was a probationary period, so you weren't eligible for the playoffs. And the first game right out of the chute, Boise State, number one team in the country, ended up winning the national championship. I believe, just beat Utah, I think, coming off a big win over Utah. And here come the Lions. I guess charter flight up there, Boise State. And here you come right off the bus, punch them in the mouth early. And here we are on the scene. And again, I know you talked about it, but just expand a little bit more on that, if you would, just the feeling it was like going into the stadium before the game, how it transpired, and what you felt like getting on that plane coming back home.
I think the interesting thing for me, I was a mental football player. I mean, that's how I even got a chance to play the sport. I knew what to do with the ball. I knew where to go. I knew everybody's block. And so thankfully there is a great degree of mental necessity in football. From a talent perspective, I couldn't have played. But let me tell you this, we go to New Orleans, we get on the tarmac at 101 degrees. We fly to Boise, we land. It's probably mid 45s, maybe 50. And these are kids that are from the South, Louisiana, most of them, and like I said, some few from Florida and stuff like that. But here's the point: that whole week of practice, getting on the plane, flying up there, I guarantee you could go up and down the aisles in that airplane, and there was not a person on there that had any fear of Boise State, and they. it wasn't cocky or anything, but I can tell you right now that when I got on that plane, other than a few of them being scared for having not flown before, there was not a person on that airplane that didn't think we were going up there to win. So then we go the day of the game. We take a ride up to a ski lift that's up the mountain somewhere, and it starts sleeting. And so we've got sleet coming down. It's 30 something degrees. And by game time, the sleet is coming down. It's staying on your face mask. It's 30 something degrees. We're on a blue field. Never seen bluegrass in our lives. And I'm telling you, when we ran to the sideline, I told Coach Capo that I said, we're going to win this game. And he said, we absolutely are. And that was kind of the attitude of everybody there. But we had a great defense coming off my sophomore year, junior year, and we had another great defense. And we dominated there. I mean, we hit, what was his name? Cedric Milner or something like that, the running back that went on and played in Canada. We drilled him so much in the first quarter. Yeah, he didn't want the ball anymore, to be quite honest with you. And I think the game was close. What was it, 17-14 or something like that? But we dominated the game in every aspect. And I know we were excited at the end of it, but it wasn't like we were shocked or anything. So we go take showers, we get on the bus, and a pretty inebriated fan, about 22 years old, got up in the front of the bus. And he said, hey, guys, I just wanted to tell y'all, I don't know where y'all are from, actually, where your school is or anything. But he said, y'all came up here and kicked our tail. And somebody on the bus said, hey, come play us next year. And I'll never forget, he said, I'm not going down there in that 100-degree heat, and neither are the football players on our team. So we'll probably never see y'all again, but it was an honor to be able to watch y'all come up here and do what y'all did.
Yeah, they didn't want no more of that.
That was a pretty nice highlight.
That's awesome.
No, they didn't.
And you guys won 4 straight to open the season. You beat ETSU, East Tennessee State. That would have been the next home game, 7-3. Robbie and I were talking about when's the last time Southeastern's won a game with 10 points. That was one of them, 7-3. I think 1983 was another. But you won a game 7-3. You talk about defense and a tough one. Then you go back on the road. You beat Illinois State 28-21, another good program. It's been solid in FCS forever. And then Jackson State on the road. I mean, those are big signature wins to open Southeastern's Division I history, and you were the quarterback for that team. So this says a lot about you, what you just talked about.
Well, and then we lost to Troy. I don't want to talk about the losses, but I don't know if you know anything about me and Troy, but they had offered me a scholarship, and then they pulled it back, and I wanted to beat them as bad as I could every year. I think that was the only loss we had to them when I was there. But yeah, the wins that we have, we fought hard. We were a very sound team mentally and in the turnover area. So we didn't really give the teams an opportunity. We just played hard and tried to stay in the game. And if we were able to stay in the game, we had really good luck in terms of, pulling out a win or something like that. So yeah, it was all of my years were different. And I led the team, and from a motivational perspective, from a academic perspective, helping people out mentally. That's kind of what I contributed to the team. And I could throw the ball a little bit, and I could run it just a little bit. And thank goodness we recruited people that could do that much better. So I got to hand off and pitch and throw the ball around a little bit and get credit for it. But are you going to talk about the River Bell?
We are going to talk about the River Bell. Not before I mention that what you did a lot. You said you threw a little, ran a little, but you led a lot. You were a leader a lot. That's why you guys were who you were. River Bell Classic. coming that you mentioned it this week. Another installment. This is a rivalry that's kind of gone back and forth for forever. It's not that old, actually. 1972 was Nichols' first year. So even in your final year, it hadn't been around that long. And of course, you dropped football for 17, 18 years. So, but here we are again, the most intense rivalry in Louisiana, I would say, of any LSU or whoever. These two teams don't like each other, 85 miles apart. I know Robbie and I talked about it last night on our Chalk Talk. But just talk about your time here and your rivalry with Nicholls State.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a rivalry for me until I signed. And the reason it became a rivalry was because, I don't know if you know this or not, but Tim Bailey signed. Now, Tim Bailey was a quarterback at Nichols. Me and him, we go back to 8 years old. Okay. Wow. He was from Pensacola, Florida. We were on the same high school team together for 1 year, and they built another high school, and he transferred out and became a gunslinger and obviously had a great career. But I have to say this, I don't mean to put anybody down or anything, but Tim and I played together or against each other 14 years. And I was 13-0 against him. And on the 14th game was when we shared duties at quarterback on the JV team at the same high school. So, as a matter of fact, my senior year, the Wednesday of the Riverbell of my senior year at Southeastern, I did an interview, and it was a big interview, and it was talking about, tell me about the rivalry between Tim Bailey and you coming out of Pensacola, Florida. And me being a smart aleck, I said, well, there is no rivalry. I'm 12-0 against him, and I'm going to make that 13 on Saturday. So, but Tim Bailey's a great guy, and I've seen him in the last 3 or 4 years, and we talk about different things. But so I made it my rivalry. Again, being a Panhandle type Florida guy, I made it my rivalry because I could see on the faces and I could hear it in the voices of my players in the locker room how much they really wanted that game. And another thing that I think was a turning point was we did play in the Dome my sophomore year, I think it was, and then it moved back to the stadium, to the home stadiums, and I think that was a big deal. I didn't like playing in the Dome. You know, you had your crowd in there, but no matter how much you had in there, it seemed like you were playing in a open, airport or something like that. It just wasn't. It didn't have that feeling, but I saw how it affected the players the week of the game, and of course some of our players were from those areas, So I knew real quick that I had to be sound and not do things that would get us beat, because these players, that was their heart and soul. They took to the field with them all the time,
And you got your final Riverbell Classic was a win in Thibodaux. 21-20 over the Colonels, and again, just a rivalry that goes way back, and it's going to be revived here on Thursday night. It's going to have a lot of meaning for Southeastern this year. Going to have to win it to get in the playoffs, but just kind of want to take our fans back and just to go back and see how long this thing's been going on. Robbie, you got anything before we go with Mr. Wells?
Yeah, I do. John's been to the last 2 games that we've played, right, John? And if we'd have lost this one, you'd have been banned from any other games to ever come to. But John's a brother. I love him. He's that guy at Southeastern that, back in the day that just got the job done. And, we broke bread at the house before, and hopefully we'll do it again. And I just love him to death, man. He's a Southeastern guy. And, Hope to see you soon, John. Maybe for a playoff game this year.
Okay. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've been to 4 games this year. The last two, I had to be honest with you, I kind of had to hold my nose a little bit, but I understand playing on the road and in the conference is tough. I really do. So a lot of things that work there. I'd like to drop names and stuff like that on here, but for me, I just wouldn't have time to do it. Let me tell you something. There's a bunch of quarterbacks that if they'd have played 4 years at Southeastern, y'all wouldn't even know my name. And I understand all that. But I was happy to get to play, and my career was fabulous in terms of how I went about it. I got to do things that I normally wouldn't do, and I got to meet people that have impacted me for the rest of my life. And I've mentioned Mark Millett one time already, and every time I think about somebody that overcomes and fights and just has the heart that will not die, he's one of the names that comes to the list, And so I was lucky. I think God's placed me in a lot of different areas, and it turned out to be fabulous for me, or at least something that was beneficial to my life. And getting to go to Southeastern and meeting those type of guys, and then doing the things that we did on the field is really amazing. I got one more story that I just got to tell you this, and this guy's from Mississippi, but he, in my opinion, this is how we were the 4 years that I was there at Southeastern. This guy's name is Orlando Whitlock. Orlando Whitlock hurt his shoulder. And when I say hurt his shoulder, he had an AC separation in his shoulder. He was a free safety. He was a hitting son of a gun and could cover the pass and do a lot of things. And we had a fabulous secondary with Patterson or Patton and Vereen and Whitlock and Colley and Dykes. And I mean, they were fabulous, right? Some of them got the opportunity to play pro and everything else. But Orlando Whitlock, when we played Troy, the time Troy beat us my senior year, I watched Orlando hit people, come off the field. I watched 3 people set his arm back into socket. He would wait about 2 plays, and if they were still on defense, he would go back out. 6 or 8 plays, a quarter later, he'd come off the field, his arm out of socket again. I watched him put his arm together in the Troy game either 3 or 4 times, and he never took himself out of the game. And if you know anything about an AC separation, you know that it becomes numb whenever it comes out. You really can't reach very high, and you can't do hardly anything with your arm. But it never stopped him from running over people and hitting them as hard as he possibly could. And I use his name to describe all the other guys that I played with because they were just like him. And you'd have to kill them to get them off the field sometimes. But that's what I took away from Southeastern, along with the friendship and the coaches that I learned a lot from. And I will say that I am 4-0 against Nichols, and I will say I'm 3-0 against Northeast. But that's really just that's me bragging, which I don't want to do very much. But another story I'll tell you, and because I describe myself as a non-athlete or maybe a guy just borderline athlete.
That's not what Coach
but I got
McGee
an opportunity
says.
to act.
That's
well,
not what Coach
I got
McGee
an opportunity to act. Well, thank you for that, but I got an opportunity to masquerade as one. So we go to Northeast, and Billy Brewer and John David Crow's up there, and I knew about John David Crow, and I read some books and Bear Bryant type of things coming out of the Panhandle, and I knew John David and what he was and who he was. And I'll never forget, we beat them, and all of a sudden the locker room, we're undressing, fixing to go get on the buses, and the locker room goes quiet. everybody in there was talking or saying something, and it just went like a church. And I look up, and Billy Brewer's got John David Crow, and they're headed to me at the locker. And I'm sitting down, about half dressed, and they walk up to me, and John David Crow sticks his hand out, and he shakes my hand. He said, "I told your coach here, Coach Brewer, that I needed to find Johnny Wells, number 12. And I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate it." And he said, "Let me tell you something." He said, "I told my guys," which was, Northeast football players. He said, "I told them all week." I said, "This guy can't run. This guy can't pass. But this guy, if you don't look out, will beat you." And I think that's probably the highlight of my career at Southeastern, was to hear a man like that describe me as a winner, which was what I was always trying to do anyway. But to hear that was it just made my whole career. And then when I came out, got dressed and came out to get on the bus, I looked. My dad had worked, drove to Northeast from Pensacola, and was driving back that night. That's how much he came to see me. And him and John David Crow were at the back of the bus, and they must have talked for 30 or 40 minutes. And then he left, and we headed out. But I just wanted to throw that in there because I might not ever get another chance to say that.
Well, I'll just tell you, for our younger viewers who weren't around, John David Crow, Heisman Trophy winner, a legend. I think he was right before Billy Cannon, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That Heisman Trophy race, a longtime head coach, and a legend in college football. And for him to say that, as tough as he was, that was what he was known for toughness. I think he came out of that Junction Boys era or whatever with at Texas A&M. So, we know, and it really speaks to who you are. Here you're a guy, we have you on, and you're sharing stories about other people that shaped you and shaped Southeastern, and that's why you were the winner you were, and started a culture of winning here at Southeastern. And I think that's stories that need to be told. I think the newer generation needs to hear these stories more and more. And just a real pleasure to have you on here tonight. Robbie, got anything?
Yeah, just say, John, I love you, brother, and hope to see you soon. You take care.
Well, I do love you, brother. You know that. And I love everybody else that I've come in contact with. And Mark, I guess I love you now.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was around you for a semester, but just real point, case in point, I was around you for one semester, my freshman year, high school baseball, because our football, you were playing your senior year, I guess. So before that, but you come on as a GA, and a big influence on me. I was a freshman, started as a freshman, but just being around you and as an influence really helped me as a freshman, play varsity sports, and a big impact on my life. And I was like, man, I wish you would have been around here for 4 more years. But anyway, I appreciate it, and haven't been able to tell you that personally, but here we are. So getting the chance now.
All right. Well, I sure appreciate it. Anything you say about me that is positive and, is something that I can take into the future, I really appreciate it. So thank you, guys. There's a lot of names I would like to drop. A John Stanley and a Mark Stubbs and a Leslie Jackson, and I could go on and on. Scott Allen is a dear friend of mine. Joey Bossum, Robbie, Joey, and Scott. We pretty much are a foursome when we get together and hang around the campus or go to the games. But Southeastern has been great. I'm in Texas now, but you never know. I may be back in that area soon. I appreciate everything that everybody has ever done for me that kept me out of trouble and put me on the right path to do the things that I did. I was going to coach for 40-something years, and that didn't happen. And God had a different plan for me, and that's the way I took it, and I pursued my other career. But I did go down and coach at Nichols for Sonny Jackson, but it was a fantastic 2 years down there because I got to meet Jack Clark and Kenny Guillotte and Denzel Cox and Don Rodrigue. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So I am very blessed, and I really appreciate what you guys have done. And I do think it's important that yourselves, you put together stuff from past players, and it brings that little bit of history forward, and maybe something enlightens the next guy that says, "Hey, you know what? Maybe that's what's wrong with our locker room. We just don't have any heart. You got talent, but if you don't have the heart and people willing to line up against each other, sometimes those are the things that make a difference." So I really appreciate you guys having me, and good luck with editing this thing, because I
It'll
think
be fun.
I crapped out about 5 times. So
No, but you did just give me a great idea, because power of Zoom, we can put these things together, bring people together, and I think it's something that's important for us to do. Maybe bring some more former players on, bring you guys on together, talk about some past times, and get it documented now while we still can, because I think it's important to carry that past into the future. We got that 18-year gap, 17, 18-year gap that isn't going to ever get filled. And so something's got to bring the two eras together as we move forward. And this is one way to do it. So, John, appreciate you coming on with us. It's been my pleasure, my privilege. I appreciate Robbie jumping on here with us. And again, just it's been my privilege to watch you guys growing up, and being able to have you guys as influences. Thanks a lot.
Well, I appreciate it. And if we get an unseated at-large, I might be there.
And you better come to the
Johnny,
booth.
We play
take care,
in-
baby.
And you better come to the booth and
All right.
see us if you're there. All right.
Oh,
Johnny
I will,
Wells.
no problem.
Johnny
I'll
Wells, Johnny Wells, everybody. Appreciate you coming on here on the Southeastern Sports Radio Network. We'll